this is Jason. We are reading Who is Michael Jordan? 2 chapters. Let's do it. There was less than a minute to go in the 1982 college basketball championship game, one of the biggest events in sports. The Hoyas, Greentown University's men's basketball team, had taken a 1-point lead over their rivals, the Tar Heels, from the University of North Carolina. With 32 seconds left, Carolina coach Dean Smith called out a timeout so he could discuss their next moves with his players. The team in their white and blue uniforms gathered around the coach. He knew that Georgetown would carefully guard James Worthy and Sam Perkins, 2 UNC players who had become big stars. Coach Smith had to decide who else could take a shot at scoring a basket if Worthy and Perkins couldn't get free from defenders. He thought the team should try to get the ball to Michael. Michael Jordan was a 19-year-old freshman at UNC. In 1982, Coach Dean Smith rarely let freshmen play. He thought the first-year student needed to watch and learn from the bench before they were ready to play big-time college basketball. But Michael stood out. He was quick and could jump high. He was tough and energetic. Even better, he loved to work and to learn. He practiced hard and listened to his coach's instructions. Coach Smith knew he was different. He put Michael in the starting lineup for the first game of the season, and he stayed there all year. Now, with seconds left on the clock, Coach Smith was now going to trust the team's chance at the championships to the freshman, Michael Jordan. Everyone knew he had the talent to make the shot, but even more importantly, Michael had the confidence. Some athletes would be scared by this moment. They might be afraid of making a mistake, and they certainly didn't want to be the one to lose the game. Michael was another kind of athlete. He wanted to take a shot. The timeout ended and the players got ready to go back to court. Their coaches had only one thing to say: "Knock it in, Michael." The clock started again. The Greentown players swarmed Worthy and Perkins. Michael waited on the other side of the court. With 15 seconds left, Jimmy Black passed the block to him. Michael caught it and jumped in the air. The ball left his hand and sailed 16 feet to the basket. It swished in, and the Tar Heels took a 1-point lead. The crowd roared. Georgetown had time to make another shot, but their players couldn't seem to score. The clock ticked down to 0. The UNC Tar Heels were the 1982 college basketball championships. After the game ended, Michael told a reporter that he hadn't felt any pressure. It was just another jump shot. That was the very first game-winning shot made by Michael Jordan. It was far from the last. He would go on to win 6 NBA championships and 2 Olympic gold medals. He was named Most Valuable Player 5 times and played on 14 All-Star teams. Many people consider him the greatest basketball player ever and one of the greatest athletes of all time. Chapter 1. Too Short. Michael Jeffrey Jordan was born in Brooklyn, New York, on February 17th, 1963. His parents, James and Dolores, were both from North Carolina. James had moved the family to New York so that he could go to school. Michael had an older brother, James, known as Ronnie, and a sister, Dolores, called Sis. Another brother, Larry, was just an year older than him. The family returned to North Carolina when Michael was 5 months old. His sister, Rosalind, was born the next year. In a family of 5 children, Michael wanted to be the center of attention. He danced, sang, told jokes, and played tricks. Sis said he always loved to have an audience. When Jordan moved to Wilmington, North Carolina, when Michael was 5, so they could be closer to James' job at General Electric plant. James loved loved baseball. He taught Michael and Larry to play as soon as they could hold a bat. Soon they were playing in Little League. As they got older, they also became interested in basketball. Their father put up a basketball hoop for the boys, and later he built a court for them. When Michael was 9, he watched the 1972 Olympic gold medal basketball game between the United States and the Soviet Union. The Americans lost. Michael told his mother, "I'm going to be in the Olympics one day and I'm going to make sure we win." Michael and Larry played against each other any chance they could get. Michael adored Larry and looked up to him, but he always wanted to be him when they played. Everyone agreed that Larry was a fantastic athlete. He was very strong and quick. Most people thought that Larry could have been a star basketball player, but there was one problem. Everyone expected basketball players to be tall, and Larry was short. But Michael kept growing. Soon, he was taller than Larry. He became an outstanding baseball player. At age 12, he was named Most Valuable Player after his Little League team won the state championships. He kept getting better at basketball too. In 1977, Michael entered the 9th grade. Every morning he came to the gym before school to practice basketball with his friend Leroy Smith. Michael was about 5 feet, 7 inches tall. Leroy was a whole foot taller, but Michael was fast and could jump high. They both made the middle school team. In one game, the team scored 54 points. Michael scored 44 of them. In 1978, Michael and Leroy began their small-fun year at Laney High School. They both tried out for the varsity team. Leroy made it in and Michael didn't. Later, the coaches said that they know how good Michael was, but height is important in basketball. And the coaches felt that they needed someone tall like Leroy to compete with other teams. But Michael didn't know the truth. He only knew that he hadn't made the team. He went home and cried alone in his room. He thought about quitting, but his mother encouraged him to stick with it. Michael took her advice and played with the junior varsity team during his first year at Laney. He worked hard and put on a show, averaging 28 points per game. It was obvious how talented he was on the court. Michael worried though. He wanted to have great skills and to be tall. He prayed every day. He hung from a bar, hoping to stretch himself out. By age 16, Michael was 5 feet 10. That was taller than most people in the Jordan family. It seemed unlikely he would grow much more than that. Then one day, a cousin came to visit the Jordans. He was 6 feet 7. Suddenly, Michael had grown. They were taller people than him in the family after all. Michael had another worry as his small fun year wore on. He had a constant pain in his knees. His doctor took x-rays of Michael's leg and discovered good news. The x-rays showed that he was growing fast and had a lot more growing up to do. The pain was probably related to his rapid growth. When he returned to school for his junior year, in the fall of 1979, Michael was 6 feet 3 and still growing. He easily made the varsity team. Michael was offered 2 jersey numbers. He chose 23 because he hoped to be half as good a player as his brother Larry, who wore number 45. Now he had the height to match his skills, and people beyond his high school were beginning to notice. Word began to spread about the talented player at Laney High. The University of North Carolina had one of the best basketball teams in the country. They were interested in having Michael in their team. The coaches at UNC invited Michael to play at their summer camp for high school basketball players. Then they arranged for him to go to another basketball camp in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that included some of the best basketball players in the country. Michael was nervous at first. He was going to play against other high school kids from all over the US. He thought of himself as just a small town boy from North Carolina. Now, could he keep up with them? He kept up with them just fine. The coaches and assistants at Pittsburgh camp, the way he ran hard to the basket and the extra kick he made as he jumped. They liked how he listened to the coaches, and they saw how much he wanted to win. By the time the camp was over, Michael's name had jumped up to the top of the list of the best high school players in the country. For Michael, the summer camps were a turning point. Now he was certain he would go up against the best players. A few months later, he hadn't been sure if he could make a top college team. Now some people were saying he might be able to play in the NBA. Michael didn't know what he could do if he couldn't be a basketball player. He admitted that he was lazy about mostly everything except for sports. He got B's and C's in high school. He always tried to get out of doing his chores at home. He even quit his summer job at a hotel after only 1 week. His parents worried that he'd never be able to keep a job. In November of his senior year of high school, Michael announced that he was going to accept a scholarship offer from UNC. A school would be paying Michael's tuition. He wanted to play for Coach Dean Smith. 2 local TV stations came to Jordan's house to broadcast the announcement. Michael arrived at UNC in the fall of 1981. At basketball practice, 18-year-old Michael talked constantly and loudly about how good he was and how he could beat the other players. He seemed like an annoying little brother. Michael's teammates just laughed it off most of the time, but sometimes they wondered how this loudmouth would fit in the college-level basketball and its rules. Colonia basketball had many traditions. Coach Dean Smith was very strict. Clocks at practice kept players moving from one drill to another. The team worked hard to learn a system that highlighted defense and passing the ball. But Michael loved it all. He liked the tightly scheduled practices. He may have talked a lot, but he listened too. Coach Smith's system didn't really show off Michael's athletic talents, but he didn't mind. He wanted to be known as a good defensive player. If the coach wanted him to pass the ball, he would. He always felt that his best skill was his willingness to listen and learn. Some things bothered him, though. Sports Illustrated wanted to put UNC's starting 5 players on its cover that fall before the season started. They wanted to include Michael. Dean Smith said no. He didn't think it was fair to put Michael on the cover when he hadn't even played in 1 game yet. Smith believed that each team member should wait their turn for a chance in the spotlight. It wasn't Michael's turn yet. Michael was deeply angered by this. He thought he deserved to be a part of the cover for the photograph, but he never showed how he felt instead. He practiced harder. He listened and learned. The 1981 and 82 season was about to open. 4 returning players were set in the starting lineup. That left 1 spot open for Coach Jim Smith to fill. The rest of the team would sit on the bench for most of each game, waiting and hoping for a chance to play. Coach Smith posted the starting lineup right before the first game, and Michael's name was on it. He was set to start and play shooting guard. Even he was shocked. Smith rarely started freshmen, but Michael seemed to be the best fit. Michael wanted to show his coach that he had made the right choice. He scored the first points of that game, and he continued to score as the season went on. He stuck with Smith's system and passed the ball to players who might be able to get an easier shot, even when he knew he could make the hard ones. He worked on his defenses and made sure he was in the right place on the court. In the spring of 1982, the Tar Heels found themselves in the running for a championship. UNC always did well in the tournament, but Dean Smith had never won a championship, and he had been the coach since 1961. Fans were growing impatient. The 1982 championship was held at the Louisiana Superdome in New Orleans. The Georgetown Hoyas were a powerful team, and the score stayed close throughout the game, but Michael made his big shot. UNC was the winner, and Michael was a star. When Michael returned home to Wellington for the summer, he was constantly surrounded by crowds. When he tried to play ball at the local courts, mobs would gather to watch. It seemed as if someone was always asking him for an autograph. Michael had become a hometown hero. Although Michael hoped to win more championships, the UNC, his small foreign and junior teams didn't even make it to the National Collegiate Athletic Association (NCAA) finals. He was deeply disappointed. Michael was named the College Player of the Year in 1984. He also won the John R. Wooden Award and Dr. James Naismith Award, both for Outstanding College Player in 1984, but he really just wanted to win another championship. After his junior season, Dean Smith advised Michael to move on to the NBA. Michael wasn't sure if it was the right thing to do. He still had another year of college to complete. He enjoyed being a UNC and still wanted to try to win another NCAA championship. Michael's mother was also against the idea. She wanted him to stay for his senior year and graduate from college. But finally, Michael decided that Coach Smith was right. He had had a great college career, and the NBA had noticed. He was going to be drafted by a pro team, and he could always finish his degree later. It was time to go.